Donald Trump has hit his worst stretch of approval ratings in the history of the presidency at this given moment. And now is the time to pounce. Too many Democrats started off his term by saying, well, maybe we can work with him. Maybe the people want this. No, he is the most unpopular president pushing the most unpopular agenda. And not only is it just bad and underwater in the polls, it is criminal and corrupt. And that is the way we need to treat it. And that is exactly how Bernie Sanders treated it when he called out Donald Trump and Elon Musk on the Senate floor for their criminality, just calling them criminals, stating the truth. And we are going to get into that incredible speech. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video. And if you haven't already, and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way. And it really does mean a lot to me. Now, let's check out this clip of Bernie Sanders.
Chair recognizes the senator from Vermont.
Thank you. We live in difficult times, in times where people throughout our country are experiencing a great deal of anxiety for a number of reasons. And in the midst of all of that, it is important that we not forget what is taking place not only in Ukraine, but back home here in the United States. And back home, right now, tens of millions of Americans are struggling economically to keep their heads above water. 60% of our people are living paycheck to paycheck. 85 million are uninsured or underinsured, and we have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major nation on earth. And as someone who has visited senior centers throughout the state of Vermont and has spoken to seniors throughout our country, I can tell you that there is a significant level of fear and anxiety among the older people in this country with regard to what's happening right here in D.C. When we have a president of the United States and Republicans who are talking about massive cuts to Medicaid, let's understand, and seniors do understand, that we are not just talking about throwing millions of kids off the health care that they have at a time when we are the only major country on earth not to provide health care to all people, not just kids off of health care. We're talking about massive cuts to community health centers, which receive over 40% of their funding from Medicaid, and where millions of seniors go to get the primary care they need. And at a time when we already have a major crisis in nursing home availability, let us understand that Medicaid provides funding for 2 out of every 3 seniors who live in nursing homes. In other words, massive cuts to Medicaid would be a disaster for senior citizens throughout this country. But it is not just Medicaid cuts that worry our seniors. Today, quite unbelievably, and we don't talk about this anywhere near enough, 25% of people in our country who are 65 years of age or older are trying to survive on incomes of $15,000 a year or less. I myself do not know how anybody, let alone a senior with health care needs, can survive on $15,000 a year, but that is what 25% of our seniors are trying to do. Mr. President, this issue of so many seniors struggling to get by, struggling to heat their homes, struggling to buy the food or the prescription drugs they need, this is an issue we must address. And it is a crisis that is unacceptable in the richest country in the history of the world. And that is why, Mr. President, I am proud to tell you that within the next several weeks, I, along with a number of co-sponsors, will be introducing legislation that expands Social Security benefits and extends the solvency of Social Security for decades. You know, we're hearing a lot of talk about cutting Social Security. We should not be talking about cutting Social Security. We must be talking about expanding Social Security benefits. And the legislation that I will introduce would do just that. It would expand Social Security benefits by $2,400 a year, and it would not raise taxes by 1 penny on the bottom 93% of Americans, those who make less than $250,000 a year. And how do we do that? By lifting the cap and applying the Social Security payroll tax on all income above $250,000. Unbelievably, under current law, a billionaire pays the same amount of money into Social Security as someone who makes $176,000 a year. Elon Musk, worth $400 billion, pays the same amount into Social Security as somebody who makes $176,000. That is because under Social Security, there is an absurd cap on taxable income. If we lifted that cap and made sure that millionaires and billionaires paid the same percentage of their income into Social Security as the working class of this country, we could extend the life of Social Security for generations to come and lift millions of seniors out of poverty. Further, Mr. President, when we talk about the needs of senior citizens in this country, I want to mention that I will also be introducing legislation to expand Medicare to cover dental, vision, and hearing. It is unacceptable that millions of seniors are unable to read a newspaper because they cannot afford eyeglasses, can't have conversations with their grandchildren because they can't afford hearing aids, and have trouble eating because they cannot afford dentures. That should not be happening in the United States of America in the year 2025. Expanding Medicare to cover dental, vision, and hearing is an extremely popular concept. Poll after poll shows that 80% of the American people, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, support doing just that. Mr. President, when we talk about the anxieties that the American people are now experiencing, it is not just, to say the least, senior citizens. All across this country, there is a growing fear that the Trump administration is undermining the Constitution of our country, a Constitution which has kept us a free nation and an example, a model for the rest of the world for the last 250 years. During the last month alone, President Trump has attempted to usurp the powers of Congress, illegally and unconstitutionally refusing to fund programs passed by Congress. He has illegally destroyed agencies like USAID and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau that were created by Congress. And under the leadership of Mr. Musk, they have illegally and inappropriately gained access to tax data and Social Security data of millions of Americans, et cetera, et cetera. Every day, they are acting in an illegal and unconstitutional manner. And I would say this, and I don't know if people take it seriously or not, I do. Just this week, President Trump tweeted, quote, "He who saves his country does not violate any law," end of quote. Wow. In other words, inaccurate. So posters all over America, be careful. There was a poll coming out just today, I saw it, that Trump's unfavorables are going up. Hey, you may be sued. Pull that poll. I mean, how absurd is that? And what kind of threat is it to freedom of speech and expression in this country? And, Mr. President, when we talk about the Trump administration's movement toward authoritarianism, we should take note of another remarkable and troubling set of events that happened just this week, and my colleague from Colorado spoke at length on that. We saw the President of the United States openly aligning himself with the dictator of Russia.
This is the tone I am talking about. This is the way we need to be speaking. This is how we have to communicate against the most unpopular agenda in American history. Call it out every single day in the most unapologetic way you can. And that is what we're going to be doing on this show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. You leave a like on this video. And if you stuck around at the end, you drop a blue heart in the comments. Until next time, I'll see you soon.